If the San Francisco 49ers season continues to go the way that it's gone, will the San Francisco 49ers fire head coach Kyle Shanahan, and should they? We're talking about that here on the Niners Report. I'm Chase Sr. Thank you so much for hanging out here with me. And I'll tell you what, after San Francisco's loss to the Seahawks on Sunday, fans are fired up. They're calling for Kyle Shanahan's head, and they want him fired. But we're going to try to ease people down a little bit and have a thought-provoking conversation. Naturally, today's poll question is this: do you want Kyle Shanahan to be fired? I want to gauge where Niner fans are at here, so get in the comment section right now and let your voices be heard. Type F for fired or K for keep. That'll be the pinned comment on today's show. Why fans are fired up? You think back to last year, right? San Francisco had a tremendous season. 12-5, number one seed in the NFC, number one overall offense in the National Football League, star power everywhere. It felt as though that was going to be the Niners' year. Yet San Francisco lost another gut-wrenching Super Bowl. And this organization, this fan base, they've been on the quest for 6 Lombardi trophies for a really long time. Have not won a Super Bowl since 1994. And you think about the way that the Niners lost, led by Kyle Shanahan, and the way that Shanahan has lost these Super Bowls. There is a thought and a belief among Niner fans that Kyle Shanahan is not cut out to win the big game, and he's incapable of winning the big one. Well, I don't blame him. San Francisco has had leads and a real chance to win in both of Shanahan's Super Bowls with this organization. And Shanahan now, as a head coach and an offensive coordinator, has blown and been a part of 3 double-digit leads squandered in Super Bowls. And you also think back to that 2021 NFC Championship game. San Francisco was up by 10 in the fourth quarter against the Los Angeles Rams. We bring it to modern day, right? This year in 2024, the Niners are underachieving. And when you're so close, a couple of plays away, an overtime game away from winning a Super Bowl, fans can taste it. The Niners are desperate. Fans are desperate for that 6th Lombardi trophy. And you're thinking, we're going to bring mostly everybody back. We're still really talented. It's another year of growth for Brock Purdy. This team is loaded. We can win it in 2024. That's what fans are thinking. But here we are, trailing toward the end of November, and San Francisco is really underachieving, hyper underachieving. And Shanahan is having the worst year, arguably, of his head coaching career. Fans are also frustrated by this. Kyle Shanahan is deemed as an offensive wizard, an offensive mastermind. Yet, to the eye and the way that these games have transpired and the complexion of these ball games, San Francisco has struggled a little bit on the offensive side of the football. That is his specialty. And even without Brandon Ayuk, this is a team with a lot of talent. You're partially right. In the red zone, no doubt. Points per drive, Niners are lackluster. But look at these Niners offensive numbers. Is it just a weird year? Is it a year where things aren't going the Niners' way, where San Francisco has had to deal with all of this drama, all of this controversy, all of these injuries, all of this extracurricular stuff that doesn't have to do with football? Kyle Shanahan's also struggling in a couple of key areas, yet you look at the Niners' offensive production here this year. They are 2nd in total yards, 2nd in yards per play, 4th in net passing yards per attempt, 4th in rushing yards per attempt. They are 8th in points scored, 1st in average yards per drive, 10th in average points per drive, but a big weakness, 26th in the red zone. And when you are putting up the number one amount of average yards per drive, yet you're 10th in points per drive, that's an issue. When you're moving the football ad nauseum and you're 2nd in total yards, but 26th in the red zone, that falls on the head coach. That falls on the boy genius, Kyle Shanahan. The Niners, this is wild, are 2nd in yards behind the Ravens. They're 2nd in yards ahead of the Detroit Lions, the number 1 scoring offense in the NFL. And I thought what Bill Belichick said on the Pat McAfee show was perfect. When you lose these close games, it feels like the gap is as wide as the ocean. That's what's happening right now, and that's led to a lot of overreactions from fans. They don't realize Niners are 5-5, that they've actually had a pretty good offensive season. They've just been lacking in a couple of key areas, and they've lost these ball games as compared to winning them. And just like they're 5-5, they could easily be 8-2, and we wouldn't be having these conversations. Doesn't mean that Kyle Shanahan isn't without his faults. It doesn't mean that Kyle Shanahan doesn't deserve blame. He needs to make adjustments. He needs to adapt and evolve. I don't think that teams have necessarily caught up to his offense, but he needs to counter a little bit with that counterpunch that defenses have thrown his way. But if Kyle Shanahan were to get fired, and if fans were to get their wish, let me ask you this question. What's the alternative? Who are you hiring? Bill Belichick? Last year with the Patriots, they had one of the worst offenses in the NFL. One of the top defenses, but you want Josh McDaniels as your OC? It's not going to be as creative or fun watching offensive football with Bill Belichick. You want Ben Johnson? Why did he not take a head coaching job, the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator? He went back to Detroit. Did he fail and flunk in a lot of these interviews? That's a little bit weird. What other option are you going to go with to be your head coach if it's not Kyle Shanahan? The Niners are where they are right now. They've reached a high level of success because of Kyle Shanahan. Almost every other fan base in the NFL outside of the Kansas City Chiefs would take what the Niners have done the last 5 years, led by Shanahan. 4 NFC titles and 2 Super Bowls. Doing that in 5 years, that is a great run in a really difficult league to win in. So if Kyle Shanahan were to get fired, what's the alternative, number one? Number two, he would have a job in less than 24 hours. Guarantee you that. Team like the Chicago Bears, desperate to bring in a guy like that. The New England Patriots, they're salivating over the thought of pairing up Kyle Shanahan with Drake May. And Bears fans, Kyle Shanahan with Caleb Williams, let's go. Fans would be holding their owners hostage until they hire Kyle Shanahan as their head coach. What we're seeing from the Niners this year, it is frustrating. I get it. I talk about this team every single day for a living. Did you see the look in my eyes? The defeat in my body when Geno Smith ran in that touchdown? It sucked. This year has sucked. And the Niners are suffering from mental fatigue. They're suffering from physical fatigue. This is what a Super Bowl hangover looks like. Look at Philadelphia last year. They lost 6 of their last 7 games. They had one of the worst defenses in the NFL. Now, they have the number 1 defense. Their offense has found it. And the vibes, which were awful last year, have turned around. The vibes, which are awful for this team right now, they could turn around next year, and San Francisco could be chasing a Super Bowl when the Super Bowl is being held in Santa Clara at Levi Stadium. And look, everybody is having a bad year. The front office, this team isn't deep enough or talented enough. The coaching staff, they're not doing a good enough job of coaching. Kyle Shanahan, Nick Sorensen. The players, they are underperforming. I think they're a little bit tired. They've played a lot of football, shorter off seasons, deep into the year. When they make these runs over the last few years, and the ball isn't bouncing the Niners' way right now. More to get to here, but let's tell you about our sponsor, Prize Picks, and let's pay those bills. Daily Fantasy Sports made easy. More than 10 million active members across America. This is the largest independently run daily fantasy sports app in North America, and you pick 2 or more players, you choose more or less on the projected stats, and you can win some big-time money. Right now, when you play $5, you get $50 instantly. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. All you have to do is plug in that link, prizepicks.com/CLNS. We look ahead to Niners-Packers. If the Niners win, a 50% chance to make the playoffs. Christian McCaffrey, more than 78.5 rushing yards. Christian Watson, less than 43.5 receiving yards. So download the app, create an account, use that code CLNS, and get $50 instantly when you play $5. Billions of dollars handed out in awarded winnings. The best daily fantasy sports app in the game. Now, what will people say if the Niners get it together? If the Niners finish, let's say 5-2 in their last 7 games. They finish the regular season 10-7. They win the NFC West. They make it into the playoffs, and they make a little bit of a run. Is Kyle Shanahan going to deserve credit for that, just like he deserves blame for the Niners being 5-5 right now. What if San Francisco gets hot at the right time and they make that run? Are the concerns going to be squandered? Are the concerns going to die down and ease up on head coach Kyle Shanahan? He is not without his flaws. But the 49ers over the last several years have been one of the preeminent top organizations in the NFL because of Kyle Shanahan. He plays a role, obviously, in the football operation, in this offense, being one of the best offenses over the last several years. He puts an emphasis on defense. You love to see that from an offensive coach. He's hired Robert Saleh. He's hired D'Amico Ryans. Does he have to get special teams right? For sure. Does he have to get better at game management? No doubt. Should they prioritize offensive line a little bit more? But some of the talent that you see on this team, it's because him and John Lynch are running this organization. And think about how far they've come since he was hired. The post-Jim Harbaugh era was brutal. Chip Kelly, Jim Tomsula, they were not cut out for this job. And so the Niners, with how bad those tenures were under Tomsula and Chip Kelly, Kyle Shanahan comes in, he rips everything down. Year 1, 6-10. Year 2, their season went to shit because Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt at the end of the 2017 season. So in year 3 of a rebuild, the Niners go 13-3 and make it to the Super Bowl. In 2020, most injured team in the NFL, so they go 6-10. In 2021, they overcome a 3-5 start. They win road games against Dallas and the number 1 seeded Packers in the playoffs. They lose in the NFC Championship game. That 10-point deficit that the Rams overcame, yeah, that was soul-crushing in 2021. No doubt about it. In 2022, do they beat the Philadelphia Eagles if Brock Purdy doesn't get hurt? I thought they matched up well against the Eagles. 13-4 that year. They lost in the NFC title game. And in last year, 12-5, number 1 seed in the NFC, they lost Super Bowl 58. Kyle Shanahan is a Super Bowl win away from being one of the best, most recognized, most influential offensive minds in the history of football. And I know a lot of you are in the comment section already saying, look, the success is great. He hasn't won one. Andy Reid was in Philadelphia for 14 years. He didn't win a Super Bowl. He only made it to 1. Now, he's won 3, and we look at him as one of the best head coaches of all time. It's almost like winning a Super Bowl is really hard. I just want everybody to remember how terrible the Niners were before Shanahan. And if you fire him, you risk going back to that. It's coaching, it's culture, it's player development, it's identifying players. Shanahan's been a part of that. And be careful what you wish for. Let me know what you think of today's show. Let me know what you think of Kyle Shanahan. I always chop it up with Niner fans in my DMs on X @Chase_Senior and on Instagram @Chase_Senior.